What's up, everybody? It's Leo from People Circle again. So today I want to start my 164 list. The first category, if you look at the list in the link in the description, is the idea of communication. And it's everything that you could possibly know about human communication. And the first one is body language. I kind of go over that in the other units in my communication list. So I'm just going to skip over that, and we're going to go to the next one on the list, number 2, which is vocal tonality. So a lot of people, they ask when I tell them about my system of communication, they ask, how could this help me when, my problem is overthinking anyway, or like I don't communicate well because I get nervous and I start thinking about, my nervousness, and this makes me more nervous and I become less able to communicate. Well, I think that honestly, if you don't think about it, then you'll never get better at it. I don't remember who it was that said that if you want to improve it, then first you must measure it. But some athletes said that. You can look it up. You can Google it and post a comment and tell me who it is, or I'll just Google it after I'm done making this video. Anyway, so the best thing that I can come up with as an answer for this is the idea that there's 4 levels of competency. This is a psychological concept that had been developed, some years ago. I didn't do all that much research on it, but I've read about it, and I know that there's 4 levels of competency. And the 4 levels of competency are unconscious competence, which is when you can just do something very well without having to think about it. It's called the right intuition. And then there's conscious competence, which is when you can analyze a situation correctly. When you think about it, then you can perform the task, or you can perform whatever it is that you're trying to perform better. And then there's conscious incompetence, which is when you have the wrong analysis, but at least you're trying, at least you're doing some thought about it, and at least you're moving toward the level of unconscious competence, which is the most competent state. And then there's also unconscious incompetence, which is when you don't even know that there's something to think about. It's when you don't even think about communication, or you've never, put any effort into it at all. So of course you won't be good at it, and of course you won't be naturally, easily good at it to the point where you don't need to put any effort in. So that's my thinking about the role of thinking about communication, is that if you think about it and you analyze it correctly and you have a system for analyzing it, then your brain will kind of start through habit to become better at communication. So the first thing that I go over when I talk about vocal tonality, so basically vocal tonality is the tone of your voice. It's similar to the next item on the list, which is inflection, which is the idea that changes in the tone of your voice change the meaning of what you're saying. So the first thing that I teach people to do is to find a baseline. So what the baseline is the way that you communicate in a normal situation that you always communicate in. So if someone has a really high-pitched tone of voice, then thinking about what they're saying as, this person's excited might be incorrect because they just have a high tone of voice. Whereas if somebody normally has a low tone of voice and they're thinking, and the speed of their speech is really fast and they're using a lot of, higher tonality, then you can assume that, maybe they're excited or maybe they're nervous. So the first thing to look at and to think about is the baseline, which is your own baseline, and it's also other people's baseline. It's the idea of how do you speak normally. So then the next item is rapport breaking tonality. So rapport breaking tonality, what that is that's tonality which is meant to challenge or to be threatening or assertive. Rapport breaking tonality is, when used correctly, can be used to inspire respect. Whereas when used incorrectly, it can be used to, incite someone to be angry or have a negative communicational connotation. Rapport neutral tonality is tonality that doesn't go up or down at the end of a word, and it stays neutral. You speak not in a monotone, but you speak in a way that is the same throughout what you're saying. So when you speak in rapport neutral tonality, that means that you're not questioning and you're not unsure, and you're also not being confident or you're not being assertive. Rapport breaking tonality is tonality which is used to change the mood of a conversation. So rapport breaking and rapport building tonality are both used to change the state of the conversation, whereas rapport neutral tonality is used to maintain the state of the conversation. So if you're changing the state of the conversation or the emotionality of the participants in the conversation, then you'll be using rapport breaking or rapport building tonality. So what rapport building tonality is when you intone your words at the end of your sentences at a higher pitch, as I just did. So some examples of that would be like, oh, hello, or what's up, or would you like a sandwich? These are meant to change the tonality in this is meant to be friendly and meant to change the dynamic of the conversation to make someone like you. You're seeking to make rapport with them. You're seeking to be on the same page as them. Rapport breaking tonality is when you lower the pitch of your voice at the end of a sentence. So rapport breaking tonality is tonality that is not necessarily intended to change the dynamic of the conversation, but it's either used to point things out as, or like to say, things with certainty, or it's used to say things, how do I put this? It's used to say things which are not questioning. So if I say, do this right now, I lowered the pitch of my voice at the end of the sentence so that lets someone know that I wasn't unsure about it. So if I were to say, do this right now, it would become a question. And I can change the entire meaning of my statement just by lowering or raising the pitch of my voice at the end of my words. And then unsure tonality is tonality which goes up and down, like as I just did. So unsure tonality is tonality which is wavering. So you go up and down, and it's most of the time these changes in tonality in people's speech are unintentional. So once you learn to be intentional in your tonality, you can use the tone of the voice of the other person, and you can use your own tone of voice mentally as metrics for ways of determining the status of a conversation or the meaning behind what somebody says. So it's important to think about tonality, and it's important to practice your tonality, because this will it will put you to the point of when you have unconscious competence and you can tell what a person means, and you can be more meaningful and intentional in your speech. So thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow. And the next thing that I'm going to go over tomorrow will be kinesics. So stay tuned for that. And if you want to see, again, like I said earlier, if you want to see the entire list, I'm putting it in a description down below, and you can look at my other videos on my channels and hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you can be notified of all my new uploads. Thank you.